So, we're going to unpack one of the biggest corporate finds in history. But the real story here isn't just about the money. No, it's about a fundamental reset of China's entire tech landscape.
Here it is. This is the number that just absolutely rocked the tech world. That's 300 billion yen, which comes out to about $30 billion. And that is the record-smashing fine that Chinese regulators hit the tech giant Alibaba with back in April.
And of course, the media immediately jumped on a very simple story. This was political revenge. The government was finally putting its foot down, right? Punishing this outspoken founder and a company that had just gotten way too big, way too powerful.
But what if that's not really the whole story? I mean, if you actually look past all the political drama and dive into the business reality, a much, much deeper story starts to emerge. This was never just about punishing one guy. It was about hitting reset on an entire industry.
See, the real target here wasn't just Alibaba. It was this widespread, frankly toxic market practice that was actively choking out any real competition.
At the very heart of this whole thing is a practice called Yi. It literally translates to choose one of two. And here's what it meant. If you were a small business, a massive platform like Alibaba would basically tell you, hey, you can sell exclusively on our site, or we will crush you. We'll bury your products so no one ever sees them.
And people were talking about this, loudly. The founder of the food delivery giant Meituan, a guy named Wang Jing, was one of the loudest critics. He was out there, publicly accusing Jack Ma of using these strong-arm tactics to lock merchants in.
But here's the kicker, the real irony. At the exact same time regulators were going after Alibaba, they opened up an investigation into Meituan for doing the very same thing to restaurants on their platform. And that just proves it, right? This wasn't some one-off thing. It had become the industry standard. This whole choose one of two culture, it fueled these things called money-burning wars. You'd have these startups, right, backed by giants like Alibaba and Tencent, and they would pour billions, literally billions, into subsidies. Not to build a better product, but just to bleed their competitors dry until they were the only ones left standing. So you have to ask, what was the real cost of all these wars? Well, the biggest price wasn't paid by the giants, that's for sure. It was paid by the innovators, the people who had the brilliant ideas in the first place.
I mean, just look at the ride-hailing industry. This timeline is the perfect playbook. First, two local rivals, Didi and Kuaidi, just incinerate cash fighting each other. Then Uber shows up. So what happens? Their investors force them to merge into one giant company. This new champion then burns even more money to force Uber out of the market. And what's the end result? A total monopoly with over 90% market share. And surprise, surprise, prices are going up for everybody.
And then there's the kind of tragic story of Daiwei. He was the founder of the bike-sharing startup Ofo. And for him, this wasn't just a business, you know? He genuinely believed he was starting a movement, a way to change how people saw their cities.
He started with this amazing idea to solve a real problem he saw on his university campus. But his idealism? It slammed headfirst into investors who only saw dollar signs. To try and keep his dream alive, he took on a mountain of debt from Alibaba. But in the end, it didn't matter. The market was swallowed whole by rivals backed by the giants, and the original innovator, he got crushed.
And this right here, this is the root of the whole problem. China's entire digital life was basically carved up into two competing kingdoms with these massive walls around them. If you were in Alibaba's world, you used their payment app, their services. If you were in Tencent's world, you used theirs. And there was absolutely no crossing over. So you've got innovators getting squeezed out, and you have consumers who are trapped inside these walled gardens. Something had to give, and that's when the government decided, okay, it's time to hit the big red reset button. And what's really fascinating is the name of the law itself. The Chinese term for anti-monopoly comes from this ancient story about a merchant who climbs up on a hill to get an unfair view of the whole market, basically so he can rig the game for himself. So the goal of this law is to knock everyone off their hills and get them back on level ground.
And look, this is so crucial to understand. This was never just about Jack Ma or Alibaba. Regulators brought in 34 of the country's biggest tech companies. We're talking Tencent, ByteDance, Meituan, all of them. And they delivered a crystal clear message. The era of choose one of two is over. Done. So, what does this new future actually look like? Well, these actions are already forcing a fundamental change in how these tech giants have to compete with each other.
Okay, check this out. Right now, Alibaba's biggest competitor in e-commerce is a company called Pinduoduo. And what's their secret weapon? They are thriving by leveraging the massive social network of Alibaba's #1 rival, Tencent. People just share deals like crazy on WeChat, and Pinduoduo's growth has been explosive.
And all that pressure has led to something that honestly would have been completely unthinkable just a year ago. Alibaba has officially applied to launch its shopping app inside its rival Tencent's platform WeChat. I mean, think about that. They are willing to play on their enemy's home turf, even if it means using their payment system.
What we're seeing here is a massive shift. The game is no longer about who can build the highest walls or who can burn through the most cash. It's shifting back to a real competition, one that's based on who actually provides the best product, the best quality, and the best service.
So the real takeaway here is this. That whole story about political revenge, it kind of misses the entire point. By tearing down the walls and leveling the playing field, the Chinese government may have just cleared the path for the next great innovator, the next ByteDance to be born. So the question isn't about the giants of the past, it's about who's going to emerge now that the rules of the game have completely changed.